the threshold for the higher rate of income tax from £150,000 to just over £125,000. The state pension, benefits and tax credits will rise in line with inflation by more than 10%. Millions of households will pay more in energy bills from April, the typical bill rising from £2,500 to £3,000 as the government reduces the level of support. And energy firms will be hit with an expanded windfall tax of 35%, up from 25%. The Chancellor has vowed to protect the poorest and believes his plan will help rebuild the economy.
What can we do with our plan for stability and our plan for growth? Well, the Office for Budget Responsibility, which is an independent organisation, they say that what we're doing will reduce the impact of that fall in living standards by half next year. So we are helping every bit as much as we can. And we're also saying to people that as we do that, we're protecting the public services that really matter, the NHS, schools, the things that are going to help us get through to the other side and become a really strong, dynamic economy, which is what we all want.
Following the statement earlier, Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves accused the Conservatives of failing to learn from decisions made over the past decade.
This government has forced our economy into a doom loop, where low growth leads to higher taxes, lower investment and squeezed wages, with a running down of public services, all of which hits economic growth again. And instead of learning from the mistakes of the last decade, they're simply repeating them. We need to break free from this vicious cycle of stagnation with fairer choices and a proper plan for economic growth.
Household disposable incomes are heading for their biggest fall on record, according to the Office for Budget Responsibility. The OBR says that once rising prices are taken into account, people's incomes would drop by 7% in the next 2 fiscal years. The government's forecaster also says that living standards won't recover to last year's levels for another 6 years. Royal Mail postal workers have announced a further 6 strike dates in December, including Christmas Eve. The Communication Workers Union says the new walkouts are over a pay dispute. The industrial action is in addition to 3 strikes later this month and on the 1st of December. Meanwhile, ground handlers at London's Heathrow Airport will begin a 72-hour strike from tomorrow in a dispute over pay. The Unite union says the strike action is by workers at aviation services firm Menzies. It'll affect a range of airlines and disrupt a number of flights from Terminals 2, 3 and 4. Nancy Pelosi has stepped down as Speaker of the US House of Representatives. Her announcement comes after the Democrats lost the House to the Republicans in the midterm elections. The Republicans will swear in the new Speaker in January next year. Nancy Pelosi will stay in Congress as a backbench lawmaker. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it's over to headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon and it's going to be a great show tonight because I'm here, but also because I'm joined by 2 Headliners legends. Firstly, Leo Kearse, sponsored by TK Maxx, and Josh Howie, sponsored by TK Hamas. That's the joke I went with there. So, and Leo wasn't even wearing the right shirt for it, but it kind of works. You know what he's like. So let's get cracking and smash through Friday's front pages. So the Daily Mail has gone with Tories soak the strivers, Britain's biggest ever fall in living standards as recession hits. The Telegraph leads with the rhetoric of Osborne with the policies of Brown. Sounds like an absolute nightmare. Friday's iPaper, UK's lost decade. The Guardian goes for from bad to worse. These are terrible headlines. Friday's Financial Times, Hunt paves way for years of pain, in case it didn't sound bad enough already. FTX crypto empire's lack of controls worse than Enron. That's the ongoing FTX saga. The Sun has gone with football's coming ho-ho home, some sort of a Christmas theme on the Three Lions song. And finally, the Daily Star goes with life's robbery being a gimp. Yep, that's what they went for. So we'll get into that in a minute. But those are front pages. Let's get into it with these 2 fine gentlemen. So let's start with The Guardian. The autumn statement is out, and it's an absolute Jeremy Hunt of a budget, Leo.
I'm doing the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail. Are we doing Josh?
I'll do it.
Let's start with Josh with The Guardian for a bit of fun.
Fine. Well, first of all, I mean, the big story for The Guardian, if you see there, right at the bottom, the #2 hit singles ranked. But if you look a little bit above, it goes from bad to worse. And this is essentially the things they're focusing on. Households facing the biggest fall in living standards since records began. Chancellor has failed the most vulnerable people in society. And an interesting angle here where the Tory autumn statement has set a trap for Labour. And the gist of it is that by basically making the country so rubbish that if and when Labour comes into power in 2 years, they're going to have a big old mess to clear up and won't be able to do it. That's the idea. But yes, we've got 25 billion of backdated tax. We've got fresh austerity. So basically, yeah, taxes have gone up and money for services has essentially gone down.
Yeah, it's a complete nightmare, this budget, isn't it? I mean, Hunt talked about stability, growth and public services, but I was struggling to find the growth part in it. I saw a lot of stability. And is stability even good? I mean, like, I remember being at Glastonbury back in the 90s. There was a lot of, like, thick, heavy mud, and you could barely get your foot out of it. I was quite stable, but it wasn't necessarily good. I mean, how much stability is too much stability? When does it become stagnation?
Well, yeah, exactly, and this is what Truss wants. By the way, is anybody missing Truss now? I mean, she had this sort of prosperity, growth, low tax budget. There was all right. People didn't seem to like it, or the bond market's a very thin sliver of the world didn't seem to like it. But I like the idea of not paying as much tax. For all that The Guardian says, this is terrible. This is austerity. This is Tory cuts. So it's absolutely not. It's incredible largesse from the taxpayer. Just being lavished on the NHS is getting lots of new spending. Pensioners getting loads of money. I mean, obviously they vote Tory, so they're not gonna go wanting. But also welfare, a lot of money to welfare and defence, and also 5 billion more for health and social services, and 3 billion more for schools. So the idea that this is, some sort of austere budget, which is what left-wing people seem to be saying on Twitter, is an absolute nonsense. It is weird that there's a delay, a 2-year delay. They're saying, this is a great budget, but Starmer can implement it. Well, that's a weird thing to do. If it's such a great idea, if we need to, cut spending and raise taxes and stuff, why not do it next week?
Well, that's the trap that they're setting for the future Labour government.
It'd be nice if Starmer came in and scrapped it and was like, listen, we're going to have tax cuts.
We're going back to Truss.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's do the Mail, because we're going to have to bring this story across so many papers. They've all got the same story, obviously, and they've gone with Tories stoke the strivers. I mean, what about this? I mean, there's this fiscal drag thing, isn't there, as well, which I totally understand and have been learning. I mean, where you keep the threshold the same, but over a number of years, more people enter it, so they're taxed over a number of years. It's stealth tax stuff.
Yeah.
I don't understand the point of stealth tax. It's like, we're all going to find out. The media's been talking about them all day. Why bother with the stealth part?
But it's a stealth tax in that, as inflation reduces the value of money, and your wages increase in line with that, you get dragged into higher tax brackets without the tax brackets being brought down. But they are actually being brought down as well. So there's a stealth tax and there's an actual real obvious tax that everybody can see on a big signpost. So the top rate, the 45p of income tax, has been brought down from £150,000 to £125,000.
Just missed me.
But yeah, the Daily Mail, it's interesting how this budget seems to be a Rorschach test that anybody can see whatever they want in, because the Daily Mail is saying, Tories soak the strivers. So for them, it's not some sort of austerity budget. For them, it's very much we're taxing the working people. And it is. I mean, we're going to have the highest taxes since the Second World War.
Yeah, 1948.
I mean, come on, does that not just say something? Maybe we're paying a bit too much tax. Maybe we can get rid of some of the stuff in the public sector. Maybe equality, diversity, and inclusion. Maybe the Arts Council. Maybe we could scrap the BBC. I mean, who needs to... I know it doesn't come out of taxpayers' money, but it's still an unnecessary household expense.
Well, it's very much what Sarah Vine's saying on the front page. There was me thinking we'd voted in the Conservatives. I mean, it's just a sort of green socialist party now, isn't it, Josh? You're not gone to that one.
I think they've got a little bit of a way to go. Sarah Vine's unmissable verdict. Yeah, but then they just put it in the front. I mean, there's also other stuff that we need to focus on. First of all, looking at, there he is, Hunt, on the front there. He's walking an animal. We don't know if it's a dog or a cat.
Could be the Somerset gimp.
Yeah, it could be the Somerset thing. He's wearing the clothes for it.
He's one of these guys, he gets up very early. I don't want to hold this against him. He gets up early, he jogs. He's got the mad psycho eyes.
How can I really destroy this country from 5 in the morning? So I like also middle class plundered to fund the welfare and the pensions, because, of course, middle class don't get pensions or anything like that.
Don't get welfare.
Well,
don't get anything. If you're middle class, oh my God, can't even get a hotel on the south coast.
Bad things happen. The point is, it's there to protect you when you. Things can go tough.
There's a certain amount of squeezing you can do in the middle class, and then finally it's going to be too much.
Also, then you don't get a middle class anymore.
Yeah,
which is where we obviously seem to be going. But yeah, this is just, it's not good. I mean, we've got there were 250,000 people who were paying the top rate of tax, and now that's gone up to more than 1 million people who are paying that top rate.
Yeah,
there's a lot of money there that is sort of, like you say, being squeezed and taken out of various different parts of the economy and the voters as well. So we'll see.
My wallet.
Well, let's move on to the Financial Times with the exact same story again. Hunt paves way for years of pain. I mean, talking about the years of pain, how much is this a result of what we've been through? I mean, I would say a lot of it's to do with lockdown. I mean, I put out a little sort of cheeky tweet today saying that there should be a low tax bracket for those of us who can prove we were consistently against lockdown. Last I checked, I had 1,400 likes. People were going, yeah, absolutely, because we've done all this stuff we can't pay for. So now, of course, it's going to be years of pain.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And quantitative easing as well, which started before pandemic. It was accelerated by the pandemic. But yeah, we've had over a decade of the government just printing money and kicking the can down the road, and finally it's all come
It's really interesting.
Down.
You guys you're talking about COVID. And you're talking about the other stuff. But there's something you're failing to mention that might be having an impact on our country, that they have said that actually we would be in a much better... Do you remember what it is?
Is it the globalists?
Is it global? Similar.
It's going to be Brexit, isn't it? That's what you mean.
Brexit! Yeah, because
Brexit affecting every country in the world? Every country in the world.
OK, well, let's have a little look here, shall we? In sharp contrast to all the other G7 economies, which already regained the ground lost during COVID, we still haven't even got back to our pre-pandemic limit. So all the other countries are doing better than us. What's the big difference? Brexit.
Do you know what, Josh? I was out of the country during the Brexit vote, so I'll be fine. If you want a special Ramona tax break, I'd actually be up for that, as long as I got my special anti-lockdown tax break.
Let's take it. And what's his tax break then?
Well, I voted Remain.
Miami Vice.
I voted Remain.
He gets both.
Now I like Brexit because it annoys the right people.
Yeah.
Well, that's worth it. It's worth going through economic pain to annoy those people.
You're just homeless on the street going, Josh is so angry.
It's not that I'm angry. I'm just frustrated. It's just frustrating. That's all. Guess what? They said that this stuff would happen, and now it's happening. So.
OK.
And also a Tory government, of course, but whatever.
But I don't think it's been as bad as everybody foretold Brexit was going to be. And
I would agree with that, the whole fear thing.
We're reforming all the economic alliances with the rest.
Yeah, and we'll see a benefit in 30 years, which is going to be great.
I'm so glad we got into Brexit again. Let's move on to The Sun, and they've gone with football's coming ho-ho-home, which is sort of a reference to the Three Lions. They brought out the Three Lions song again.
Yeah.
And I love that song, but it looks like they've ruined it with awful new lyrics.
So Frank Skinner and David Baddiel have got mortgages to pay, so they brought out this revamped version of the Three Lions song. And interestingly, David Baddiel has had to apologise 25 years later. I mean, we're covering that story later on, but yeah, remember he blacked up in the 90s and put a pineapple in his head to mock a black footballer.
Simpler times.
Yeah. Now he's on Twitter, moralising about other people's behaviour.
Well, guess what? People can learn.
I only take morality lessons from people who blacked up and put a pineapple on their head.
Well, can we just ask about this song, though? Because I was trying to find out a minute ago if this is the real lyrics, and I'm still not clear. 3 lions on a sleigh with she-lion's inspiration. Santa says, let's play the Christmas tree formation. I mean, that is awful. But I'm not sure if that's the Sun riffing or if that's going to be the real lyrics.
No, I went to the zoo. I saw the she-lions eating some sardines. It was great fun.
Yeah, that's what they mean. Carry on.
It says something. The sad thing about it is that we haven't made a better song in however many years. That they're forced to... I mean, it is a good song. It
was
really
magical when it came out. You guys are not into football. When it came out, it was absolutely magical.
But I can appreciate the song, absolutely. But the fact that we are having to resort to going back to it every single time instead of someone, please, we have talent in this country, make another football song.
There are other bands, there are other musical artists to listen to if Baddiel and Skin.
And I like at the top there, they put, tax hell, thank God for footy. Yeah. So it's sort of like just, well done, son, you got some news in there somewhere.
Yeah. And that's the Sun trying to cheer us all up. They put the budget in a tiny one.
Tiny box at the top there.
Yeah. Well, let's have a quick look at the Star, because they've gone with the really important story, the GIMP story. Who wants to do this? Josh, have a look at this one.
So this is, it seems like there's a GIMP down in Somerset, I think, which is scaring people and got arrested. And then this GIMP is in Essex, and now he's called out the Somerset GIMP and said...
GIMP Wars.
GIMP Wars, and said, no, you're giving GIMPs a bad name. Now, that may sound ridiculous, but I actually think that there's something slightly insidious here. This GIMP in Essex, he goes out, he supposedly raises a bit of money for charity, there's videos of him, like, shopping and stuff. But I think it's sort of okaying this fetish or normalising it, when I would argue that they're both pretty messed up. That's what I would say.
Well, I'd say, why is this particular fetish being criticised when other fetishes seem to be celebrated and we send them into schools to read stories to children?
Well, yeah.
Good point. Controversial, but good. That's it for part one. Now, some people say we only talk about wokeness and cancel culture on this show, which is totally false. But coming up after the break, we have stories on wokeness and cancel culture, but it's just a coincidence. See you in 2 minutes.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon. I'm still here with Leo Kearse and Josh Howie. And as Joe Biden would say, insert funny joke here, then introduce stories. So Friday's Financial Times. And Leo, I'm regretting putting all my life savings in FTX.
Yeah, well, if you had, they would have gone to the Democrat Party. But yeah, apparently the FTX collapsed. This is a big Bitcoin exchange and partner trading house called Alameda that collapsed and lost somewhere in the region of $10 to $20 billion. Talking huge amounts.
Like truss them out. Let's truss them out.
So yeah, the collapse was worse than Enron, according to the liquidator, John Ray. He said, "Never in my career have I seen such a complete failure of corporate controls and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information as occurred here." So yeah, this was young people in their 20s. They were living in some sort of polyamorous community in the Bahamas and running this Bitcoin exchange or crypto exchange. Yeah. and this trading firm. And what they were doing is customer deposits were, because an exchange should be foolproof. You're not holding money. You're just dealing with the transaction and taking a little skim off the top. But when the money came in from customers, they were buying stuff or whatever, they'd take the customer deposits, lend them to the trading firm Alameda. Alameda would give them some sort of nonsensical made-up token back, which they said was equivalent to the value of the money, but clearly wasn't. And then Alameda would gamble with the customer donations. And then, when the tide went out with crypto, exposed, who wasn't wearing any trousers, and they got done. But what's really interesting about this, apart from the polyamory and the fact that they're all young and crazy, is they're all like these young woke altruists. So they're donating. Sam Bankman-Fried who ran it all, was donating hundreds of millions of dollars to charity and to the Democrat Party. So he was the second largest donor to the Democrats in the midterms.
Yes, and so Elon Musk questioned on Twitter whether that was a reason this hasn't been investigated earlier.
Yeah, but it did come out like the day after all the votes came in.
Yeah, a bit suspect. It was quite funny how he did this video where he was talking about how he's a vegan and he only drives a Toyota Corolla because he's such a great guy. Now he's come out and said, all that dumb bleep I said, it's not true, really. He just admits he was virtue signaling.
He probably doesn't even like wearing shorts. And stuff like, if you ever see him in videos,
doesn't even like crypto.
He's wearing shorts. He's got white socks with sandals, and he probably just dresses like you. That's his problem. He's like, I've got to go and do an interview now. Better put my wig on and have my long hair and whatever. Yeah, they also were doing a thing where they would approve payment requests to each other with personalised emojis. So essentially, it's like, can I take 100 grand out? Aubergine.
Smiley face.
Woohoo, party!
Yeah, 1 million creditors from this scam.
Yeah,
so insane. A lot of lives. Ruined.
My neighbour basically was like, you should do it. So I can't work this stuff out. So I was like, I'll give you 200 quid. Will you do it for me?
Right, yeah.
And not seen that money. That money's gone.
It's gone. Friday's Independent then, and Nancy Pelosi is retiring. I, for one, am devastated, Josh.
Yes, Nancy Pelosi exits the Democratic leadership after losing the House. And this is what she said: we must move boldly into the future. So she's been watching a lot of Star Trek. And there's also some now we are grounded by the principles that have propelled us this far and open to fresh possibilities for the future. So she's very next generation.
Yeah.
This is the kind of open...
A bit like Rishi. Did you see him dressed like Star Trek with Klaus and his new lover Trudeau? Did you see those weird things?
All hanging out together.
They wear these weird Nehru things now. It's like the weird dystopian future outfits.
No,
sorry to cut you off. I thought that was worthwhile.
They're coming to TK Maxx next week. I'm going to get one.
Yeah.
Anything as soon as it's out. Yes, so this is... Look, a lot of people knew this was coming. Obviously, the Democrats have lost the House now. This is after last month. Do you guys still think that her husband was attacked and it was a gay conspiracy?
Pelosi, there's some mad updates on that story. What's the latest?
Even says here the Democrats lost control of the lower chamber, which can happen after you've indulged in that kind of...
What happened in the midterms, by the way, Leo? I don't know if you want to talk about that.
You're deflecting from my question, by the way.
What was the question?
The question was, do you think...
I've stopped following it, the Pelosi thing. Why? What do you think happened?
Well, it wasn't this... It's proven they weren't this gay lover conspiracy thing that went out straight away and everybody seemed to...
But it also...
I never said that. I didn't even say that on this show. I let Lewis say that.
Mainstream media came out and said, this guy's a Trump supporter. He's a MAGA patriot, and he wanted to attack Nancy Pelosi. Man, that guy made hemp jewellery. He lived in a commune.
Yeah, but
he had a BLM sign in the window. He wasn't,
No, mate, if you look at his online stuff, he got more and more, converted over the years. He
closer to the truth, we call it.
Just very briefly, because Nancy Pelosi is stepping down. What will her legacy be, if any? Will it be her good work in Tiananmen Square, or will it be tearing up Trump's speech like a sort of very partisan idiot? What do you think, Leo?
I mean, I guess you oversaw a period in politics where American politics became more divisive and the country really divided. And I know, there were other people such as Trump contributing to that, but she certainly didn't help. And the rhetoric that her and other Democrats of that era.
Yeah, because she was supposed to be a bit more moderate than the so-called squad of Ilhan Omar et al. But she never really brought them back to the centre. She let the party become incredibly far left.
And that was a big mistake by Biden and by Pelosi.
Absolutely. All right, Friday's Times and an event about cancel culture has been cancelled in some kind of Inception Russian doll nightmare of wokeness, Leo.
Yeah, so a conference which aimed to highlight opposition to cancel culture has itself been cancelled after venue staff refused to work at the event. it has emerged. So this is speakers at Education, Not Indoctrination. That's the name of the event. So they plan to claim that the woke ideology is taking over schools and universities at the event in Civic House in Glasgow on Saturday. Unfortunately, woke ideology has also taken over Civic House. Civic House pulled the event. I was actually, I put a tweet out to try and find a new venue for them. They have found a new venue, but the reason that the Civic House staff members said that they couldn't have it was they said some of the topics would be offensive to LGBTQ staff members. I think more of the Q than the LGB. But yeah, so for example, they've got Stuart Waiton, who's a sociology lecturer who claimed it's biologically impossible for people to change sex. But that's just scientifically accurate. You can change your gender, because apparently that's a made-up thing, but you can't change your chromosomes.
Claimed it is biological. That's not a claim.
That's
just stated.
It's like claiming gravity exists.
There's a few things dodgy about the article. I mean, they claim that Frank Ferrudi is now a right-wing libertarian. He's the guy behind Spiked. He's a Marxist, as far as I know. I met him briefly at the Battle of Ideas. He's perceived by some people as a libertarian now, but I wouldn't say it's like a nailed-on fact. So I don't really trust the whole article after that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, my experience of this, obviously, you know, I perform in Glasgow. I've got family there and stuff. A show I performed recently in Glasgow was the venue wanted to pull it because of concerns from staff that it was going to be problematic. That I was some sort of far right fascist or whatever. Because as we all know, the Nazi. The Third Reich started as a comedy show that got out of hand. But yeah, the staff wanted to pull it. It only went ahead on the proviso that there would be a steward there monitoring what was said on stage to make sure no hate crimes were committed.
OK.
Were any hate crimes committed?
Yeah, loads. Obviously, it's a comedy show. I mean,
do you have anything massive to add, Josh?
No, I do. I think it's actually a bit more nuanced than what you're saying in terms of, at the end of it, it seems like the actual venue themselves seem to be very much trying to say, look, there was no attempt to stop the event happening or shut down the discussion.
Apart from cancelling it.
Well, no. In that, it's not coming from the top. They're literally saying, we won't have the workers there to be able to do the event. So it's whether they actually stand up to the people who work there and say, no, you have to do this, which is, of course, what we're seeing in a lot of companies publishing houses and whatnot. But the point is that it's the employees holding the company to ransom.
We can't have these minimum wage blue-haired 22-year-olds curating what we're allowed to see on stage and read in books. It's an absolute nonsense. They've got no right to choose on our behalf.
You're talking about our production team.
How dare you? So let's do Friday's Guardian. And someone who's probably less worried about the budget is Boris Johnson, Josh.
Yeah, Boris Johnson received £276,130 plus expenses for a US speech.
Got his bus fare as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, if you add the bus fare and then it seems like he took his family along, so that's 250 kids. That adds up to the whole thing there. So, yeah, he was there in America. He was supposedly he enjoyed the hospitality of Rupert Murdoch. And he's been in America. And, the actual, it seems like accommodation hospitality was a value of about 11 grand. And this is him going to Montana. But, yes, for a 30-minute speech and then also a sort of meet and greet for 45 minutes, that's what he got, like $250,000, essentially. Whereas poor old Theresa May did a speech and she only got £97,000.
Gutted. What a loser. What I don't get is why it's...
She's an open spot on the whole Prime Minister circuit.
Why is it newser? Because, like, Boris is doing this all the time. He did one the other day in New York. He got, like, $350,000. And so are we going to do this every time? This is his life now.
Why did he want to come back to being Prime Minister when he could be making this bank?
Because power's the only thing better than money, I guess.
It's insane, but that's making a Prime Minister's salary, including all the expenses you get as Prime Minister. But in 30 minutes is absolutely incredible. I was astonished at these. I know Tony Blair and Bill Clinton get these kind of fees, but they were in power for a lot longer.
And I bet he's not even doing like original material.
Right, nicking a lot of Rishi stuff probably. All right, so let's do Friday's Times and a mysterious rise in cardiac arrest since the pandemic started. What could that possibly be, Leo?
Yeah, mysterious. Mysterious. So paramedics are investigating a mysterious and marked rise in fatal cardiac arrest among affluent Scots since the start of the coronavirus pandemic. So apparently, the poorest households, 10% of them are surviving a cardiac arrest, but people who had a more expensive, people from the more affluent households are only 8% of them.
The ones in the affluent ones are the ones who have like indoor plumbing.
Yeah, all that kind of credit cards.
It's all relative.
They've got cutlery. They wear shoes. That's right. That's right. But yeah, this is obviously nothing to do with the vaccine. Why would you think that?
I don't think that. I want to make that very, very clear.
Yeah.
The vaccine is safe and effective, Josh.
Well, I mean, what is there evidence that more affluent people took the vaccine? Is that? I mean, you could argue that it could be something.
The evidence seems to be right here.
Well, I don't know if it is.
I'm not saying it, Josh. You're saying it, and Mark Stein, but I'm not, I'm not saying it.
Well, I mean, look, there could be other reasons. The routes could have changed. I know that ambulances are going through a crisis in terms of the number of people. You know, the hospital could be closer to areas.
Oh yeah, hospitals are notoriously closer to poor areas. But I just want to know: can you get vaccinated against sudden cardiac arrest? That's what I want to get vaccinated.
They're working on that.
Okay. Well, also there's something about defibrillators. Having a big impact on the survival rate. I could certainly see someone like dying during COVID, and then someone's like, "Oh, I've got to do mouth to mouth. Wait a minute, I'll wash them down," and then sort of trying to breathe through the mask.
Well, social distancing was actually cited as a reason, and then the other reasons that we could speculate on that definitely didn't happen. But anything else to add, or should we go to the break?
No, just watch out. Eat less fried stuff.
OK, good. That's all for part two. That's all for part two, but no flipping, because after the break, we'll be talking about women's football and the use of blackface. And to be clear, those are totally separate stories. See you in 2 minutes.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something weird happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak. Stop talking.
My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. There's never been a more interesting but also critical time in British politics, and I can't wait to bring you the biggest stories of the day with the best factual accuracy and also a few of my own opinions thrown in. We'll engage in passionate but always polite debate with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12 on TV, on radio and online.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon. I'm still here with Leo Kearse and Josh Howie, but I've run out of jokes about them, sadly. So let's crack on. Friday's Telegraph and Charlize Theron has criticised her mother tongue, not her mother's tongue, to be clear, Josh.
Charlize Theron under fire for mocking her native Afrikaans.
She will.
As a dying language. Wait, I'm from South Africa.
Yeah,
there we go.
It's one of the few accents you're allowed to do, isn't it?
Yeah, you're allowed to, exactly.
What can anyone say?
Yeah.
And that's kind of why she's being attacked in a way, isn't it? No, that's probably why she thought it was OK to attack it, is because they're Dutch settlers. Well, if it was anyone else, you can't attack it.
What's quite funny about this, so she basically said on a podcast, there's only 44 people still speaking Afrikaans, and there's more than that. I think it's a couple of million or whatever. It's the third most spoken language behind that's probably racist, mispronouncing that, and Zulu in South Africa. But the funny thing is, the person who's sort of speaking out about this, so Charlize Theron, is a guy called Tim Theron. who is a South African. So basically, probably her dad has called her out. That's how small the community probably is, as they're all called Theron.
Yeah.
We're extremely proud of her and everything she's achieved, but we're very proud of our diversity. Yeah, I don't think they're that diverse if they've got the same surname.
Man, languages, you know when people try and revive ridiculous dead languages, like Gaelic in Scotland, which the only person I know who speaks that is Scottish Lynn. And funnily enough, she only speaks Gaelic, but it's completely pointless. It puts up barriers between people because you can't communicate, and communication is what integrates people. So we should all just speak English because it's the best language.
It's weird, isn't it? Like, some languages are okay to attack. Afrikaans, apparently, although maybe not because there's been a backlash. But Welsh is you can't attack Welsh because it's all. Because I would think the rules are you're not allowed to attack. You're allowed to attack white people, but not. But with Welsh it's different. Let's just get on to the Welsh one because it's too complicated. Let's do Friday's start. And the Welsh are taking a stand by changing the name of a mountain to something no one can pronounce, Leo.
Yeah, so Mount Snowdon, which I think is the highest mountain in Wales, although not as high as Ben Nevis, which is a much better mountain and is in Scotland. They're going to change the name of Mount Snowdon after 5,000 people signed this stupid petition. So they're going to change it to like a Welsh name.
It's Widfa.
Or other one says it's called Oidfa.
They can't even decide on what it's going to be called. So Oidfa in the south, then other places it's going to be Eiruri and Eiruri. It's like, man, nobody's going to be able to put this in the sat nav. This is going to destroy the Welsh tourism business.
We've got to be careful because Scott got attacked last time for saying how he pronounced Plaid. He tried to pronounce
Plaid Cymru.
Yeah, but he said it so badly.
Plaid Cymru.
He didn't say with like me.
Oh, is that what it is?
The Welsh.
You sound like an elf.
The Welsh BMP. Instead of whatever that is. But this is more of this sort of parochial nationalism that's popping up in Scotland and also Wales, even Cornwall, places like that. It's like, man, just accept that you're part of the United Kingdom and just grow up and deal with it. And
they're not going to do it.
Stop being such a petty little Englander. But
in about 10 years, we'll all be speaking separate languages in Britain. It's mad, isn't it? What do you think, Josh?
Will Britain exist?
No.
Yeah.
But there is a nice bit at the end where it says the national park will still be legally obliged to use both the Welsh and the English names. So there.
Well, it sounds like
that's a win.
Sounds like a
for
case
English.
of woke cancel culture.
Snowdonia.
It's woke cancel culture gone mad. The Times now, and French people are getting annoyed about something related to their language. Doesn't sound like them. Let's carry on your run of terrible xenophobia.
French voice anger at rise of Franglais tourist signs. So they're a bit touchy about anybody using French. But I'm actually very insulted in here because Louise Maisonneuve, Le Group's president, who he basically of this Observatoire de Liberté, or whatever, someone who's all precious about French language, he said the Anglo-American language is not only... The Anglo-American language, mate, it's called English.
Yeah.
That's like an insult right there. That's, for me, is like, I'm not going to listen to any more of that.
Aren't they referring to this thing in Nice where you've had a mixture
they said, I love Nice.
In history, you've had a mixture between... You've had the English influence, so that it is actually part of their tradition.
Yeah, and also we've had the French influence here. We use loads of French words. French fries. Both those words are French. Or it's French food or something.
Neither are French.
We also...
Croissant.
Gâteau.
Croissant.
Baguette. We use loads of cul-de-sac, loads of
That's
French
the first genuine one you've named there.
We don't cry about it. France. We use France as well.
Yeah, but we don't say La France. We don't say Paris, do we?
We don't say Paris.
Pen pal.
Disneyland Paris.
Yeah.
I used that the other day. I was there.
So much. And also we take not just their words, but we take their Albanians. So what are they crying about? Come on.
But they're very upset because now they're saying it's le pressing for dry cleaners and le parking for car park and l'internet. So they've actually got a special committee because you've got the Olympic Games there in 2024, and they're really afraid that there's going to be more Anglicisms there. So for certain sports like skateboarding or whatever, they're trying to devise special French words for like 360. I don't know what they're going to call it, like the Grand Royale. Whatever.
With cheese.
I might move on because that story is getting boring. So Friday's Daily Mail has a story about my favourite sport when it's played by men, Leo.
Yeah, so women footballers are at increased risk of injury because they play in boots designed for men, research finds. They are football boots, they're not going out in wellies. But female players are apparently 4 to 6 times more likely to suffer an anterior cruciate ligament injury than men. But I just want to know, how does the ligament know their pronouns? So unless they've written their pronouns on their boots...
Also, they should just get, like, the smaller sizes. Rather than stop playing in men's boots.
That's a really good idea.
With that extra socks.
Yeah.
Get like a smaller size.
Yeah, because women are smaller.
That's what it's
they're
about.
tripping up. They're falling out of their shoes.
Yeah, it's about the gradual evolution of the women's game. So there was this thing the other day, they're going to struggle with headers because headers have more of a deleterious, whatever that word is, deleterious impact on women than men and so on, all this kind of thing. Now it's going to be the boots. As I'm saying here, it's to do with the traction. Women's football boots, so the boots are designed for men because you need a certain amount of traction to generate the power, but it's actually higher traction you need in women's boots. That's what it's all to do with.
No, I thought it was the other way. I thought the traction was too high because you need a lot of traction for men but for women...
No, it's less.
But for women, because their bodies are different... There's actually a really interesting book called Invisible Women. It's all about how all these things that are designed by men and for men, like, you know, cars and whatnot, and the seatbelts, all have had this very deleterious impact on women through the...
Doesn't sound interesting.
Well, it isn't. No, it is interesting because you don't realise how these physical differences have made an impact, and this is one of them. The other one is...
Won't this get resolved by transgender players just taking over the sport?
That's the hope.
That is the hope. I still probably won't watch, but I recognise its right to exist. The Metro now...
That's big of you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I'm not as bad as people think. I think women's sport should be allowed to happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty woke.
You are such a libertarian.
You should be the ambassador for Qatar.
Thank you very much. Take it off Gary Neville. The Metro now, and David Baddiel has apologised to Jason Lee just 25 years later.
Well, technically, he has actually apologised before. This is for an impersonation that he did on Fantasy Football League, where he used to dress... He had this pineapple on his head. They did this big impression of him and did blackface. This is 25 years ago. And essentially, he's apologised in the past, but this is the first time, and this is actually shown in this documentary that's coming out this week called Jews Don't Count, which is based on his book, which is an excellent book, and where he actually he basically apologises in the flesh for the first time. And he says to him, Jason, he says, look, my first question is, why has it taken you 25 years? And he says, look, I'm shamed, I'm awkward, there's fear, and also it's his own experience. I know you always talk about this, but his own experience is he started putting his Jewishness forward and being, I wouldn't say a victim of racism, but being subjected to racist abuse. That's given him a new perspective where he can go look back at his own actions and go, what we did was messed up.
But the cynical take, Josh, wouldn't it be that now he wants to virtue signal on Twitter, but he doesn't want any weak spots where people can call him out?
He's not virtually signalling on it. He's calling out anti-Semitism.
No, not anti-Semitism.
Particularly from the far left. No, but my point is, look, I know David... Mr. Baddiel, not the wielder. What I'm saying is that during the whole Corbyn era, David Baddiel was fighting anti-Semitism, and this became a big deal partly through Corbynites using this as you can't say anything about racism because look at you being racist. Do you see what I mean? That's what it's come all from the far left.
But the thing is, I mean, he can't say anything about racism because this is him being racist.
Yeah, but that's like saying you can't talk about a different form of racism. He did something 25 years ago that was wrong, that he's apologised for. That doesn't mean he can't talk...
Fred West can come back and open a refuge.
That doesn't mean he can't talk...
Fred West, don't worry, it's been 25
he's Fred West. Look, that's exactly what he is. No, he's a person who has been subjected to racism, who was talking about racism towards his own ethnicity.
You know what? I realised racism was bad without being subjected to it. Well, I never blacked up and put a pineapple on my head, even though I knew it would be really funny.
I'm not saying for a second that David Baddiel hasn't experienced anti-Semitism from sort of nutters online. Absolutely, I'm sure he has. I think people get a bit annoyed when it's whether it's Little Britain, whoever it is, when they're not spotless people themselves, but they like to sort of lecture people on Twitter and things like that.
That's the problem.
That's what it is. Though I'm not by any means condoning these Corbyn nutters.
Look, he was in a sketch, he admits it's wrong, he's apologised, and now he's apologised to him in the flesh. I think it was wrong what he did. There's arguments that there was a different time and all of that stuff. It was 25 years ago.
It was a very funny show.
But that doesn't nullify his arguments right now that are very valid in the book, Jews Don't Count, that I think is an excellent book. And just because of this thing that happened 25 years ago, and he uses that experience in the book to talk about and work through his arguments. It's much bigger than just he did something wrong, so everything he says must be wrong now.
No, that's fair as well. I mean, and it was a very good show. I loved the Fantasy Football League, so at the time everyone loved it. I'm not commenting on whether it was OK to do blackface, but it was a very funny show. You guys aren't football fans, so you probably weren't bothered.
I watched it because it was funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
I didn't like football.
I didn't understand any of it.
Yeah.
That's how good it was.
I generally thought that there was a guy who used to have a pineapple.
All right. Well, I think we've dealt with that story, and you know, we almost had a fight, but then we got through it.
Good way.
That's it for part 3.
Good fight.
Yeah. Don't go away, because after the break, we'll be talking about a man who came back from the dead and another man who made himself taller, and it's not Leo Kearse. See you in a minute.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
for helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
across England, Scotland, Wales,
And Northern Ireland. On TV.
On radio.
And online.
we're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's
News channel.
On the Mark Stein Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Stein Show.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co.
Welcome back to the final part of Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon. I'm here with Leo Kearse and Josh Howie, who, like female footballers with the correct boots, have promised to give everything and leave it all on the field in this final section. So it was a callback to earlier. It made sense. Friday's Daily Star, and a man who managed to make himself taller, and it only cost 130 grand, Leo.
Yeah, I saved myself 130 grand just by being tall. Has he tried that? But anyway, this fella's gone through this excruciating £130,000 leg lengthening procedure to grow just 3 inches in his legs. So he was 5'6". He was bored of being 5'6", because women were swiping left or whatever the bad direction is on Tinder. So he went through this.
You've never even seen the bad direction. Leo's like, no one's ever swiped. No, whatever it is that you people do.
But yeah, so he had his femurs broken and lengthened, and it took loads of time, was very painful, cost loads of money. Why didn't he just lie on Tinder?
No, it's worse than that. He's married.
Is he married?
He's married. That's what it says on page 2. He's married, and he's talking about his. Nobody says my wife was more worried about it than I was, and she liked me the way I was. Of course, why wouldn't she? But it's like, why would you do it if you're married? Look, I'm bald. I could go get this hair transplant thing, but then you think I might. But what's the point? I'm married. My wife. We've got a lot of kids. There's no way she can leave me.
They can.
No, she can't.
Yeah,
she's trapped.
My dad
with 5 kids.
Yeah, no, 2 kids.
No, that's what I'm saying. 2 kids, but she's trapped. My wife is properly trapped.
No,
now.
they never. You think they're trapped, and that's
He means trapped in the basement. Was it the hair or the height, Leo, with your dad?
He's tall, but he is bald.
I see. That's the point. Yeah. I'm going to stick up for this guy. I think he's a legend because men do struggle with this. You know, women sort of laugh, oh, men have got no problems. There was that book by, I've made a note, Nora Vincent, who did this book called Self-Made Man. She pretended to be a man, and she thought it was going to be easy. It was so hard and horrific that she got depressed. She later even killed herself because it's actually not easy. Yeah.
Which is a very male-like thing to do.
True. It's very hard being a man. And there's height fascism. I can't even stand next to Leo in a photo now without half the internet going, oh, Nick's tiny. I'm like perfectly decent height. I'm like 5'9.5". That's respectable.
5'9.5".
Very respectable. Very respectable. I mean,
I've never heard anyone do a half before.
Got to do the half.
you know you're really stretching for that height.
I'm very, very high. See how nasty you're being now? Yeah. This is what I'm talking about. And men suffer this. And I even had a date lined up once with a girl. She messaged me. She suddenly went, "How tall are you?" And I was like, "Why are we going on a fairground ride?" That's true. That is a comedy joke. But I also did do it.
How old was she? Like 7?
No, it's just women have a thing about height. And I just think this guy, he's gone out there and he's claiming in the story, "Oh, I wasn't that bothered about it, but I just did it." Why did he spend 130 grand? Of course he was bothered. But I think it's fair because men are oppressed about height. And hair loss.
I agree.
And
I agree with that
as well.
In pretty much all ways, men are the most oppressed people when you think about it.
Thank you.
That's the
3
point.
men have agreed on that tonight.
But to be fair, all you need to do to be tall, I mean, a little bit genetics, but also having good parents who feed you properly.
Is that what it is?
That's all it is.
Also,
So
why do you just wear high heels?
How tall are you, Leo? Just to clarify for the internet, how tall are you?
I was 6'6". I'm sometimes 6'5" now because I've got mild kyphosis.
Right, so Leo's 6'6", and he stands up straight, guys. So I actually am very tall. He's just
I don't because of kyphosis.
Freak.
Like if I stood up straight,
you still stand up pretty straight.
Yeah.
All right, I think we've smashed that story. Unless you want to add anything else.
I just want to say that he's going to be all out of proportion now.
Me?
I mean, him, yeah. He's just going to have these really long legs, and it's going to look really weird.
Yeah,
with a short little
weird
top.
long legs and like tiny little arms, like a T-Rex.
I think it's really
Let's
weird.
be a reverse orangutan.
It took him 3 months. It grows 1 millimetre a day.
Yeah.
With as they separate, and then it sort of grows.
Yeah. And you're bedridden. You can't are you? Probably.
And he says, "Oh, I'm working from home." Actually, it's a good thing to do during lockdown. Yeah. Wow, you're looking well.
The producer's trying to get you to stand up, Leo. Do you want to stand up?
Yeah. Stand up.
I
don't even fit.
See, look how tall he is.
Let me stand up next
to him. If you got that wide shot, if you got that wide shot, his head doesn't even get into it. Yeah, they've adjusted the camera for you, but he's absolutely... That shot gives no context, but when you were there, when it was the wide shot...
Why don't you come in, Nick?
We could sit... No, I'm not doing it. I won't do it anymore.
Nick, why don't you stand up? Oh, you are.
Look at it. Look, he's out of the whole shot. Look at it. Come on.
I'm glad I was wearing trousers today.
He's like Godzilla. He's like Godzilla destroying a Japanese city.
He's huge. He's big.
All right, let's move on to the metro. And an absolute legend dad has banned electricity in his house, Josh.
Yeah, dad bans electricity, makes family wear head torches and only uses heating once a week. This is a guy called Chavdar Todorov.
You're absolutely smashing it with the accents and names today.
Chavdar Todorov. And obviously, we are all going through a cost of living crisis. Heating bills have gone up. And he's got a wife, not for much longer, I imagine, Moda, 49, and their kids, Tio, 14, and Nicole, 20. So that's some of the stuff that he's doing. I don't understand what's the point of turning on his heating just for 1 day a week. Like, what's that going to do?
You just say, you gather it up and then you just...
Yeah, but you can't huddle onto heat for a week.
Yeah, but you can enjoy it. You can enjoy that one day.
So it's just a day where you can, like, take your clothes off and have a shower and not be free? OK.
You know what it is? It's psychological, so you can keep them going. They're complaining.
Just get through
your day's coming up. Yeah, it's coming up. You've had your day. Yeah,
and then, they wear torches on their head. Those torches cost £8.48 each. And this is his wife's a yoga teacher. Now, yoga teachers earn some money. And they live in a barn in London. Like they're making some money from that. So I think this is definitely a lot.
Isn't it a bit of a part-time job, yoga teacher sometimes?
No, I know some yoga teachers who break it in.
OK, well, I like this guy. I think he's a total legend. It's such a British thing not turning on the heat. And I've done it this year. I've looked like, how late can I do it every year, but this year I haven't even turned my heating on once. I take a perverse pleasure in it. Absolutely. That's how I grew up. In my house, when I was younger, it was like your nose would be streaming. Your dad would be like, put on a jumper, run around.
Ice on the inside of the windows.
Yeah. And it's a British pride we have.
When I was growing up, we were just chucking £50 into the fire.
Yeah. Different world.
But it's interesting. I mean, he's obviously a man because, I don't know, women, they always share this post on Instagram about climate change, being like, we need to save the planet and stuff. And then they leave all the lights on, leave the windows open with the heating on full blast. If you want to stop climate change, just teach women about the basic laws of thermodynamics.
How dare you? OK, let's go on to Friday's
How dare you speak the truth?
And there's only one man who's ever come back from the dead, of course, but it's not this guy, Leo.
Yeah, so there was the canoe guy, and this guy is trying to do the same sort of thing. He was so badly in debt, he decided to fake his own death. It's not Rishi Sunak. He ended up going viral on social media by accident when he was filmed waking up inside his open casket. I mean, if you're going to fake your own death, wait until after the funeral to come back to life and start moving around. Otherwise, it does cause...
Get your dosage of sleeping pills right.
Yeah. It comes, it starts a bit of a fracas. This is in South Jakarta, Indonesia. And, I just think, what a legend trying to pull this off. It obviously didn't work.
It's going to get a year in prison, but the video's gone viral all across Asia. media, if they could monetize that, that would ironically pay for their debt at least. But it's quite interesting. So they hired this ambulance with a casket, and they said, "Oh, we're going to go pick up our dead relative." And then halfway there, they stopped over to the toilet, and then the husband kind of just disappeared, and the driver was like, "Oh, okay, he's just gone." And then they delivered the body, and then the husband sort of woke up. So, I mean, yeah, why would you not just stay asleep?
Wait a bit.
Yeah, just not, maybe not fall asleep.
He might have been worried about missing the buffet.
Oh, yeah, you want to, at your own funeral. Everyone wants to go to their own funeral, surely. You want to see what people
who
say
turns
about
up?
you. If anybody turns up. What the speeches are, criticise the speeches.
All right, I think we smashed that one. Let's do the Daily Mail with a story about sheep. And I don't mean the ones who agree with lockdowns and get the vaccine, Josh.
Ooh,
see what I did there? Edgy content.
What the flock? Sheep walk around in a circle for 12 days without stopping on a Chinese farm. So this could well be some new disease that's come out of China. That's what we're going to be doing now. It's going to be the opposite of a lockdown. We're just all going to be walking around in circles. This is in northern China. This was filmed in Inner Mongolia. And Mrs. Meow... Is that Mrs. Meow, do you think?
Yeah. So she's more of a cat person.
Yes. Basically, some sheep started walking around and then kind of everybody joined in and they didn't stop. The interesting thing is that it didn't affect other pens. So it was this one pen where it could be like some sort of social contagion, but there are also diseases that will affect certain parts of animals' brains and affects them and will get them to only move in one direction.
It's also a defence mechanism against Welshmen. But this animals like sheep and fish and starlings, they because they react to one another, they can form patterns. Is a theory I made up just now.
Well, I'd like to eat some of this yummy sheep and see what kind of impact it has.
Yeah, it might do a spiral poo.
All right,
I always do those anyway.
That was an excellent one. Let's do a quick story from The Sun. We've already had a man who came back from the dead. Now a show is back from the dead.
Neighbours is coming back. Yeah. So you remember the calamity 4 months ago when it went off the screens?
G'day, mate.
It's being brought back. Yeah, that's a great accent.
Thank you.
It's being brought back. So it was on air for 37 years. I couldn't believe that. But it's being brought back by Amazon Freeview. Is that what Amazon Prime's called now?
No idea.
Right, well, the Amazon Freeview are bringing it back, whoever they are. So it's going to be on air in the...
No, there's still Prime. There's some extra time.
Yeah, maybe.
And yes, you're going to have Paul Robinson, Carl
Yes,
Kennedy,
come on,
Kennedy,
Paul.
and Toadfish.
Yeah.
Anything on this, Josh?
Well,
quickly?
just only that, I mean, I think they're all a bit gutted because they were all off in Hollywood making all these movies. So to be called back onto Ramsey Street, I think it's been quite hard on them.
Well, Kylie was in Street Fighter, the film.
Oh, that's a great film. Love that film. I might go and watch it now, actually.
All right, that's all for tonight, guys. I think thanks to Leo and Josh. Tune in tomorrow at 11 p.m. Up next is a Farage replay, and we'll see you tomorrow at 11. Thanks, guys. Good night.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join me, Arlene Foster, for the briefing on GB News. Every Friday at 3 p.m, I'll give you all the latest political news and analysis, and we'll have robust live debate. To make sure that you're caught up on all of the biggest issues of the day, we'll bring on experts in their field. I'll ask the questions that you'd like to ask. We're not afraid to tackle discussions from all perspectives, including yours. Don't forget, the briefing with me, Arlene Foster, every Friday at 3 p.m. on GB News.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It's Thursday night, and this is Farage at Large. Live from Southampton, please welcome your host, Nigel Farage.
Yes, we're here. It's Farage at Large. We're in Southampton, the birthplace, of course, of our Prime Minister. We've had the budget today. I want to find out from this audience, what do they think of the budget? Do they feel optimistic? Do they feel pessimistic? We're going to get their reactions, lots of thought, loads of analysis. But first, let's get the news with Tamsin Roberts.
Nigel, thank you. Good evening from the GB newsroom. The Chancellor has delivered his plans to get the economy back on track as he acknowledges the UK's already in recession. As part of his autumn statement, Jeremy Hunt has reduced the threshold for the higher rate of income tax from £150,000 to just over £125,000. The state pension, benefits and tax credits will rise in line with inflation by more than 10%. Millions of households will pay more in energy bills from April, the typical bill rising from £2,500 to £3,000 as the government reduces the level of support. And energy firms will be hit with an expanded windfall tax of 35%, up from 25%. The Chancellor has vowed to protect the poorest and believes his plan will help rebuild the economy.
What can we do with our plan for stability and our plan for growth? Well, the Office for Budget Responsibility, which is an independent organisation, they say that what we're doing will reduce the impact of that fall in living standards by half next year. So we are helping every bit as much as we can. And we're also saying to people that as we do that, we're protecting the public services that really matter, the NHS, schools, the things that are going to help us get through to the other side and become a really strong, dynamic economy, which is what we all want.
Well, following this statement, Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves accused the Conservatives of failing to learn from decisions made over the past decade.
This government has forced our economy into a doom loop, where low growth leads to higher taxes, lower investment and squeezed wages, with a running down of public services, all of which hits economic growth again. And instead of learning from the mistakes of the last decade, they're simply repeating them. We need to break free from this vicious cycle of stagnation with fairer choices and a proper plan for economic growth.
Household disposable incomes are heading for their biggest fall on record, according to the Office for Budget Responsibility. The OBR says that once rising prices are taken into account, people's incomes
Very simple. This city has the highest number of small independent businesses per capita of any city in the United Kingdom. The private sector here is busy, it's active. Also, since 2019, Southampton has taken a much bigger hit than other cities. Living standards already, before the recession begins, have fallen by 6%. You see, the point is, folks, if you're in the public sector, if you're in the civil service, you haven't actually paid anything for the pandemic. But everybody else is. And the bill came in today. There are eye-watering tax increases between now and 2028 for those that are working. The working population are being asked to pay for the pandemic. I look back on it now and think, well, Sweden didn't lock down completely. Florida, under Ron DeSantis, didn't lock down completely. We did, and I have a feeling taxpayers are going to be picking up this tab for many, many years to come. To me, well, he talked about spending cuts today, but nothing very specific there. I'm going to recommend a spending cut we could take that would make no difference to growth in our economy. We're due to spend 100 billion quid